There we go. Looks good. All right. 30 seconds.
Like them on Facebook or call 884-4400. Your one-stop shop for everything.
And you won't be able to hear anything once I turn our mics on. We'll just
talk about the kind of government
YouTube itself. But
we have to have.
we'll start off with a little bit about you, who you are, and then just kind of roll into there. And if you want, I printed some stuff off from the website we can follow along with.
Sure. It's probably close to the same message. Yeah, kind of still working on how I communicate that message.
10, 5, 4.
8-4 by friends of Mark Gordon.
All right, and we have Sherry Bea Smith in the studio right now. We are continuing with our live, uninterrupted political interviews, and she is the state senate candidate for District 31 in South Dakota, and that includes St. Ange, North Spearfish, Whitewood, Deadwood, and Lead. So if you are a resident of that entire large area, it also includes Lawrence County. Stay tuned because this is going to be a good one. We'll also have the audio up on podcast. We will have video up on YouTube, and you can check all that out on KBFS.com. Should be up by tomorrow. So, hi Sherry, how you doing?
Good morning, Alexa. I'm great. Thank you so much for the opportunity this morning.
Wonderful. Well, let's start off. Tell people a little bit about yourself, and we can go from there.
Well, I am a native of the Black Hills. I was born and raised, I was born in Deadwood, raised in Lead, graduated high school there, and learned during that time to really appreciate the Black Hills, the woods, the appeal of the outdoors, and also the values of a labor-related community, the values of hard work and education. So those are the concepts that I took with me throughout my life, and I had the good fortune to be able to work my way through school. I'm a registered nurse. I have a diploma in nursing, and that's sort of old-fashioned now. So I went back to school to get a bachelor's degree in science. So I have a bachelor's degree from SDSU, and then I've been very involved in advocacy. So my advocacy from a healthcare perspective started at the bedside, doing the best you can for the people that you're caring for and the families and their loved ones that are concerned about them. And then I went into a leadership where my advocacy expanded into advocacy for the nursing staff.
Oh, wow.
So that you provide the best work environment as well as the best care environment. And that advocacy then goes to making sure you have an educated staff that's supported in a safe, caring work environment. And that really linked me into public policy. And I learned quickly that policy drives practice. And so I was very involved with working with our legislators, lobbying for things such as supporting reimbursement for, such an example, diabetic education, that helps people stay out of the hospital and instead of the expense of being in the hospital and the ravaging of the disease on their body. So that level of advocacy then took me to a graduate degree in public administration, and I have a degree from USD in that. So I call myself a Raboti because I'm a coyote and a rabbit. So so what audiences I'm appealing to, just so if you're an alumni of either one of those, I am as well. So I've been really engaged in the public policy perspective, and particularly in my role as the Chief Executive Officer at Lead Deadwood Regional Hospital for a decade, learning and the process of reimbursement, the challenges people are up against in obtaining health care, understanding that people make choices between going to see the doctor and paying their heat bill. And learning that people are very connected, and I don't care what party you're associated with, I don't care what part of the state or country you live in, when someone is in need and vulnerable, we're all the same people. Our wants, needs, and fears are the same. So I think we have a common thread to be able to approach the challenges that we have as citizens of the state to make sure that we have a positive future as we move forward.
All right, and I know you talked a little bit about your background, but you're did I read this correctly? Was your father a lead miner?
Yes, he worked at the Homestake Gold Mine. He actually ran what is termed as the cages, and actually he worked in Yates shaft and that elevator, which is, they're huge, they're big, and they're cages because they are open to a degree. Those are still being used now for the Sanford lab at Homestake.
Wow.
So it's really exciting. In fact, I'll give a pitch for Neutrino Day. It's Saturday. I'm taking my granddaughter. She's here from Colorado. You can go and see the Yates shaft there. So he spent his most of his adult working life working at the Homestake Gold Mine.
Oh, that's fascinating. And speaking of Homestake, you're the board president of the historic Homestake Opera House?
I am past president. I just stepped down this month, so this was my first meeting was yesterday that I was not the president, but I'm still on the board. But I had 2 years being the president of that board of directors, and that's been eye-opening and really very exciting because the historic Homestake Opera House, with their vision of restoring that building to its original grandeur,
Wow.
is moving forward, and that's pretty exciting.
So you've held high positions in the medical field. How has, I guess this is theater and music as well. Has it been kind of fun to do this?
It's been fun and challenging because the model for healthcare is obviously not the same as arts and culture and
really?
restoration of a building, although I've had some challenges as CEO at Lee Deadwood because it was an aging building, and to make sure that you are making the right decisions for restoring. So I had that component with me, but we had the pleasure of receiving a grant and through the Allied Arts Fund, and the executive director there, Sarah Carlson, and I attended 2 sessions, day-and-a-half sessions in Sioux Falls to understand how to build a business model within the arts culture, because a lot of people that are artsy don't necessarily have that business model in their head. So it was really, we were very fortunate, and that was grant dollars that we were able to glean. So yeah, that has been, there's some similarities, but definitely contrasts as well. Always a learning experience.
Oh, that's interesting. And could you just touch on a little bit of what kind of a business model that looks like in the art community, the stuff that you learned?
Well, what we did is broke it down into, I think we ended up with 5. We built a strategic roadmap based on, of course, your infrastructure and your finance, your leadership, and your mission. And most of the organizations that we worked with, they didn't have a facility component, but because of the destruction of fire in 1984, we added a leg to have a restoration facility, because that is a big challenge, is bringing that building back to where it used to be. But we're on our way, so come by.
That sounds really great. And all this kind of blends into the civil service role and what you'd be doing in the state senate. Is that going to be an easy transition or a tough one?
My whole adult life has been one based on service. So I think that service model is there, and also the complexities of state government, because really your major components of, if you look at the budget for the state of South Dakota, it's education, healthcare, and public safety. And with public safety is law enforcement is involved in that, roads, etc. So I feel that I have a good background for that. In healthcare, and particularly in leadership in healthcare, you work with law enforcement, and because the challenges that face our society, we share those challenges with law enforcement as well. So you build those relationships and understand how we're connected. So I don't think it's certainly a learning curve, but I have lobbied and worked with legislators for decades. In a role as a registered nurse and in a role as executive management, and feel that I have a good working knowledge of the structure of state government and the challenges that we face. Certainly the challenges West River, not to divide the state, but Lawrence County is different than Brown County.
Sure.
And so representing the citizens of Lawrence County, we will have common threads, but we also have some unique needs that need to be addressed. And I think that's always a challenge, and if you would look at our seated legislators now, they would agree that working, because that population is weighted more on the eastern side of the state. So that piece is there as well.
Alrighty, what else would you like voters to know about you that maybe you haven't got a chance to tell them yet? Or what are some other things you'd like to cover and let them be aware of?
Thank you, I appreciate that. Actually, I've been sort of contemplating on the message and the understanding of what are the basic needs in South Dakota. And I have understood and experienced the migration of young people out of the state of South Dakota. And if people would look at the demographics of South Dakota and understand that we are starting to have the largest proportion of our citizens are aging instead of young people having children and establishing lives in this state, we need to reverse that trend. And this isn't a new trend, but it is shockingly apparent that we have to do something different in order to rebuild the economy of this state. So a plan for the future to have economic stability and to have a quality of life that will both appeal to and keep young people is to provide for education, including early childhood education, which has been shown to be an economic driver, to provide opportunities for access to health care, particularly mental health. I would like to see a model, much as we have supported having physicians locate in rural, underpopulated communities. I'd like to see that same focus be put on behavioral health so we can really address our mental health and addiction issues in the state of South Dakota.
Which is then going into our the law enforcement aspect.
Yes, because we're all tied together in that piece, because the burden on law enforcement is
the
great.
monetary burden on the state because of this too, and I know even Christy Nome talked extensively about this at a meet and greet I went to, but yeah, she too was commenting on the interconnectedness, and a lot of faces kind of went, oh, I see.
Yes, and people don't realize that how much you are using your resources in crisis management instead of a plan to provide for a healthy environment, and that mental health and recovery are a big piece of that, because a healthy child can learn and a healthy adult can work. And those are the foundations of our economy. And woven in there, of course, is an open government, so everybody understands how we're supporting those processes, how we are allocating your tax dollars so that we make sure that we have a vision and a mission in this state and that we stay focused on that.
Sure, and providing mental health is going to save money. That research shows generally that it saves money on the back end from states having to spend it for law enforcement, for hospital stays, for more serious things resulting from their mental illness. So a little money on the front end helping these people is going to help in the long run. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and to have a network of support. What I have learned, I had a professional young woman with a grade school age child tell me that she could not, there is no longer a counselor in the League Dewitt area, so just take her child to Spearfish. So Spearfish, then residents have a less opportunity because those scheduled appointments are being taken up by residents from the surrounding community, and it's nice they can help that. But it's really a sad commentary that even if you have the financial resources to seek mental health services, the resources are not there. And we need to take a look at that. I'm a nurse. It's body, mind, spirit.
Yeah.
If your body doesn't work, it impacts your spirit and your mind. And if your mind doesn't work, it impacts your body and your spirit. So those are intertwined, and you can't have someone that is mentally ill and struggling and have them be physically well. In fact, statistics will show you that individuals that struggle with mental health are more frequently hospitalized with physical health issues. So it's just imperative that we broaden our minds and understand that. So when we have people out in ranch country, what is the answer? Is it that we have a community center with that available? Is it that we have telehealth, and that is being used in some other settings? So certainly your foundation for your resource needs to be a face-to-face, but checking in on someone that is helping keep you, centered via Skype might just be the answer. But right now we don't have the foundation or the network for that. And is that a piece? And I don't have all the answers, but what I expect that when I take office, that I will have colleagues that we work together, because great minds make for great solutions.
Sure. Even Elon Musk with SpaceX is not working alone. He's got
Exactly. Well, that's you. If you're smart enough to surround yourself by the right people, that's really the direction you need to go.
Well, we talked about small towns a little bit, and getting physicians to rural areas and things like that. And I remember seeing a big news article online that mentioned women having to go for childcare all the way down to Rapid, even though they're way up past Newell. And people were commenting on this online Reddit. I'll give a shout out to that little piece of software I use. And people were commenting all over. They just boggled their mind that someone would have to drive 3 hours for basic pregnancy care. And for some people out here, they're just kind of like, well, that's what it is. At least it's only 3 hours. But getting these rural towns to a place of economic health, they seem to just be declining. There was also another study that I think just the vast majority of small towns were declining economically, were declining in population. How, what's your opinion on that small town decline in South Dakota?
The revitalization is a desire, I think, among all of us, because the small town settings, I think we all relate to that. Many of us, we have a couple of big cities that have tertiary level healthcare facilities, and how do we promote health and wellness in the surrounding communities? It is really a struggle to maintain healthcare facilities, and how do we build that structure? Because the death knell to a town is closing its schools and its hospitals.
Sure.
And what is a hospital? I mean, how do we look at those models now? And I know there has been federal monies. There is a county in Montana that put together a very vibrant medical home model, which indicates that all of your needs are met within that area. So you don't just have a place where you go to the doctor and a place where you go get social services, but that it's a team that is meshed together, so that your mental health, your physical health, your social needs, people understand that where you are then referenced, but you're not referred to someone 150 miles away.
Okay.
You're referred to someone within the core of that medical home model. So that is one of the answers that some of communities have taken on, because be real, you can't support a hospital in every community, but can you have a clinic that has mid-level practitioners with nurse practitioners and physician assistants that are highly skilled and capable of delivering that level of care? That can be done. So that's where the model there, we enticed our doctors to small towns. Let's expand on that and provide a larger web for people to provide a safety net and people to access their healthcare needs.
Well, speaking of those small towns, you've got St. Ange in your district, to Spearfish, to Lee and Deadwood. These are, there's a lot of variations between these communities. Do they all offer, is it going to be difficult to work with all those different demographics, or is this a thing of dynamics and variety, and that's a strong point to your district?
I think it's a very strong point, and it's exciting. You'll see me, if you go to my website, you can see pictures of my 56 Chevy, which I named Gracie a few decades ago.
I would high five you if you were 5 feet away from me right now.
It's been a fun. We had Gracie in the parade, and I'm as long as the weather holds, I'll be on the road when I start doing door to door. But what I want to do is hear what people have to say.
Sure.
I went to, a couple weeks ago, I went to Spearfish to their Friday evening confab and met people, and I really want to hear from people, and I learned from some young people. I wanted to live here, I wanted to work here. They were from out of state, they came to school here, and it was darn hard for me to find a position so I could carry on a life in the Black Hills. And for them to express that to me, I thought, wow, that's very telling. Looking at, you have statistics in front of you that tell you the migration out, but when you hear it from a young person that is so enthusiastic about building their life in the Black Hills and how difficult it was to get that life started, that's a message to us that these young people don't want to go. And so where are the thoughts of people in St. Ange, which I remember driving through. I've driven through St. Ange episodically because I think it's just fascinating. The loop, the St. Ange, Whitewood, Belfouche
Oh,
loop,
yeah.
you know, and Spearfish. So, you know, you have Black Hills State University, you have the lab at Homestake, you have hospitality and gaming in Deadwood, you have the ranch community surrounding St. Ange, Whitewood area, but once again, we all share the same goals as far as providing a solid lifestyle and one that in which people embrace the values that we all espouse in this state. So the values of hard work and education and being connected with the land, I think those are threads that hold us all together.
Sure.
So I don't see that it's different, but they're not in conflict,
Right.
I guess I would say.
You're kind of painting this picture of overall, you know, a place that's healthy, economically successful, and, you know, gets the small towns a little bit more back on their feet, which I think would apply to all these areas, even though they have their differences. Just a little bit, anybody who is just tuning in, we are talking to Sherry Bea Smith. She is running for District 31 State Senate in South Dakota. Again, we'll have all this stuff up on KBFS.com, probably rolling around tomorrow. Don't be afraid to check us out on Facebook. I am taking video as well, so this will be available on YouTube. You are actually the Democratic candidate for District 31. And I believe Bob Ewing is the incumbent for that. How come you decided to run on the Democratic ticket? How come that's your party affiliation, and how does this affect, I guess, your views and how you'd help District 31?
I was raised in a household that believed in strong work values, and I was raised to believe that the Democratic Party was the party for the working person. I've worked my whole life, and I think that that party is one that looks at the foundations of a government that supports, it's not welfare, but supports people and provides all individuals the opportunity to succeed. Because my vision is that we provide a community with an economy that we don't have to have people on public assistance. I lived on food stamps for about a year and a half when we lived in Vermilion, and my husband was a student and my daughter was a baby. And I knew at that time, as a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, that my plan was to be successful enough that I would pay enough taxes back that would more than pay for the price of the food stamps that we used. And I did that, and I had the opportunity to go to school, had the opportunity to receive student loans, I had the opportunity to receive scholarships through the Critical Care Nurses Association. I was able to do those. Those are all pieces of the Great American Dream that I'm afraid is going away. And that Great American Dream reflects the values that I was raised and I continue to believe to be the values of the Democratic Party.
Okay, so generally, most Republicans will go, oh, Democrat, and then, you know, there's a big kind of rift there. What would you say to somebody to kind of bridge that rift and go, you know, it may not be what you think. It's actually a little more like this. Are there main topics that a Republican and Democrat, or at least in your idea, would see similarly, or is there just a big rift between the two parties?
I think particularly when you look at the state level, it is evident that our goals are the same.
Okay.
And I think that the temptation to go to the Washington Beltway is pretty overwhelming. And even in conversations with my friends, which is a mix. There, you know, I have Labradors and Great Danes. You know, I have friends that are Republicans. I have friends that are Independents. I have friends that are Democrats. I have friends that don't have a claim party. And as we speak to the issues, we all understand the issues, and sometimes our belief in how we approach those can be different. But it's always about understand first, to understand where people are coming from. What are your fears? What are your economic pressures? What are the challenges you have as a young parent, so that we can share that understanding? I just don't believe that we are that different at our core. Philosophically, how you sometimes you drift apart and don't always agree on everything.
Mhm.
But I have friends and family that we share the same party values. We don't always agree on everything either. You know,
Sure.
but it's a matter of working together and keep the dialogue open. I'm a strong proponent of dialogue, and that's one big reason I am running, is so we have dialogue. There needs to be a voice that says, how about this? How about this? Have we thought about this? You know, we're looking at the migration of our young people out of here.
Mhm.
Is that a concern to you, regardless of if you have an R or a D after your name? And where do we go from here to fix that? I have Republican friends that I need my Republican friends to vote for me, and I expect that they will, because I think they believe in me and that they know that I would have an open door for communication and concerns. If I'm off track, I've actually experienced this in leadership. You know, I loved my career, and I tried to build an environment in which my staff could say, you're crazy. So I don't know how much craziness we'll talk in the legislature, but dialogue is really, really important, and it does not, whatever your affiliation, and particularly in the state of South Dakota, the independent registration is really moving forward.
Mhm.
And so what's the message? The message isn't, I'm a Democrat and I believe in this. My message is, I am a citizen of this state. I am registered in Lawrence County. I feel that I have a message and a vision that I share with many of the people, and let's move forward and have a discussion about where we go from here.
Sure. Well, that's great. And a lot of people, you know, you mentioned dialogue and everything like that. They can generally, when people get upset about something, they'll talk about it amongst themselves. But now in this age of technology, it's as simple as sending an email, a tweet, you know, a message comment. So hearing from that vast multitude of different people around District 31, do you use a lot of technology in that way? I know your website is very top rate, and your daughter's the web developer on that, and that's fantastic.
Right. I have a website, Facebook page, Instagram, which is a little less because Facebook really is the primary,
Sure.
and the ability to contact, and I'm going to be out and about. So we really are relying on social media because that's a conduit. The days of people sitting down at a phone bank and calling people, those days are over. People have cell phones. People don't have landlines unless you live on a mountain like I do, where you can get reception, so you have a landline as well.
Yeah.
And that happens out in rural areas, I understand that. So that social media connection, but face-to-face is a lot of it, and I want people to be able to contact me and communicate with me, and that's one of the beauties of a website, is that they can connect into, I have a campaign email site, and that people can reach that on my through Facebook, or they can reach it through my website.
And does that go directly to you, or does that go to somebody you have managing it?
Well, it goes to, I have access, and I do have a communications coordinator in my campaign, because I need someone to be able to pull that together, or if we're sending out a message saying Sherry Bea is going to be talking to Alexa,
Yeah.
you know, on Wednesday morning, so that they can be posting that, and my time is spent doing one-on-ones with my constituents instead of being in front of the computer. So I have great support with that. But that technology is wonderful, and it is supplanting some of the processes of yore. However, seeing people and connecting with people cannot be replaced. So my Chevy and I are going to be out hunting
56
everybody
Chevy.
down. That's right. Yeah, my 56 Chevy.
Well, what else should we let folks know? Again, if you just tuned in, we're talking to Sherry Bea Smith, the Democratic candidate for State Senate District 31 here in South Dakota. And she's also going to add some other stuff that we should know. So go ahead.
I'm just going to, if they want to learn more about me, and also I want to know what you think, because there is the Contact Us component of my website. It is SherryBeaSmithDistrict31.com. So it's SHERRY, B as in Bob, EA, SMITH, District31.com. So take a look at that and tell me what you think, because I want to know what's on the minds of the people in Lawrence County. I know a lot of folks, but I don't know everyone, and I don't know how everyone's thinking. So I would really look forward to an opportunity to hear from you that way. Or if I'm on the street, I'm out and about, please come by and say hi, and let me know your thoughts about the issues that challenge you in the state of South Dakota and the county of Lawrence, which is the District 31. It's a very pure district, so it's nicely bordered because of the borders of Lawrence County. And I really appreciate the opportunity this morning, Alexa. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you for joining us. All right. Well, that was Sherry Bea Smith, again, District 31, Democratic candidate there for South Dakota State Senate. If you've enjoyed this, don't be afraid to check it out on the podcast tomorrow or on our YouTube channel as well. But for now, we're going to get you back to the Laura Ingram Show, and then Katie will actually have your news and weather today at noon. So stay tuned. More fun stuff coming up.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that we always try to remind federal agencies that
I guess we're in American Capital News right now.
Land
Okay.
is an important.
That's fine. It's been a long morning. I keep thinking about, like, all my insurance stuff anyways.
Well, I hate the H word.
The what?
Hail. I mean, I hate the H word.
I can't. I was reporting on it here, and I see it starting to go east of Orman, and I'm like, oh no.
Uh-oh.
So I had the other girl, my board operator. I'm like, you gotta do the weather. I gotta go, and killed 3 chickens, took out 8 windows, my deck, just everything. I got home, and I'm just like,
Oh, well, no kidding. And you know, part of the problem too is when there's that much damage, you have to get in line to get your car fixed because they have so much damage.
week and a half. Yeah. So I'm making them come here at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Y'all
That's
can
all right.
come down to the station. If we disagree, I'll interview you on air. The
Exactly.
guy's from Mississippi, and he's I'm exporting this so I can get that up on there. Let me